write songs very different from keyboard players.
Let's have a look at your hands. How big are your hands?
They're pretty big.
Dude, you could look at that.
Yeah, pretty big.
You're a
I could
bass
be in
player.
goal.
You're a bass player.
I could be in goal.
You could be in goal.
Yeah. You know, a lot of keyboard things, you know, we change the bass notes and all the rest of it. With guitarists, you're getting your C, you're getting your G, E minor. You know, they're really straight, but they sound great.
Yeah, yeah.
So when John comes up with...
And he's just doing that.
I was straight in.
Yeah.
I just loved it straight away.
Yeah.
And then he released into the C, and then I was in for the... I wanted to go falsetto again. I wanted to be big. I wanted to get back to that Back for Good stage where, you know, it's just one of those things where the stars align just at the right point. You know, I'd had 10 years of this. I could see this song, but I couldn't hear it, and there it was, right in front of me.
That song has such an enormous build, and by the end of it, I mean, the euphoria is out the park, isn't it, on that one? I mean, you're really delivering the note, and everything comes together. And, you know, when that song is being written as well, do you hear that in your head? Do you hear the build and the dynamics and the rise, you know?
Well, it's funny because I spent years telling everyone around me I'll never be an artist again, never want to sing again, and subsequently didn't really sing for about 6, 7 years at all. On demos now and again, but very seldom. If I could get someone else to do it, I would. And until I heard the first Coldplay album, and I realised that you could be in a rock band and not have a husky.
Yeah.
It's the most beautiful voice. And I thought...
That's a classic album.
I could see myself doing that. And for the first time in years, I could see a place again. I could see that place.
Have you told Chris that?
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice moment for artists, isn't it, to do that?
Well, you know what? That's the journey, isn't it?
It's the sharing.
Here we go. You know, we're all passing the baton, you know.
Yeah.
And I was so inspired by that stuff, and used to play it and sing it on my own. And so when I came back, I imagined that sound. I imagined guitars, and I imagined the stadium sound of a Coldplay song.
Done
I
your
thought
way.
that could work for us.
Yeah.
As a vocal group as well. Obviously, there's not usually many harmonies with Coldplay, but I could hear them. I could hear where they'd fit.
Yeah.
So that was very much a direction I thought could work for us.
Do you know, I mean, you said you played them. I mean, you know, this is a little bit off the reservation, but I mean, what are some of your favourite chords that Chris has delivered? I mean, can you know, do you know your way around Chris's writing a little bit on the piano?
I'm not going to play his chords.
It's okay.
Out of order,
he doesn't need the PRS. It's all right. It's okay.
It's out of order. I'm not touching one of his chords. Thank you.
What was great about the return to Take That as well was that Mark got a single away that was a big hit and a real fan favourite with Shine.
Well, when I came back to the band, very quickly, within a couple of sessions, I realised I had a partner in Mark. I had that link I didn't have the first time round. I thought, oh, this is great, this is, because his style's very different from mine. And so we were good partners for each other, and it made room for Howard and Jay to get involved as well then, because we'd be busy on our bit and they'd be tucking away at something else, and it felt like a band for the first time.
And you look like one too, and you still do, you know.
And so it was a big surprise, and for me it was good news that I had another writer, I had a partner in what I was doing.
You're honest with each other when it comes to playing each other's songs? I mean, can you sit there and offer constructive advice to Mark from your level of experience and not feel that you're encroaching upon his artistic vision, which is always a tricky situation, I think, in a band?
Yeah, it's always, I think it is tricky writing with people.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've never had a level of honesty with anyone I've written with where you can just speak your mind. I don't think you can. I think you've got to be
You've got to be careful, don't you?
Without appearing to be a liar and trying to, you know, I think you've got to be careful around. You don't ever want the point where someone's insulted by what you say, where they sit back and stop.
Well, this is interesting because a lot of people watching this will already be in bands and will have to face the situation where other players bring songs to the table and want to be more involved. Generally speaking, in bands, there's one chief writer at least to start with, but from there it has to evolve, I think, for people to feel involved. Otherwise, you have a very special relationship within band members if you can just lay back the whole time. So what are some of the things you've learned on how to deal with that? What works for you guys? How do you get around that sensitive issue?
I think you need a plan. And I think that I always had a plan for each record. And I'm not saying this like I'm the grand master and I sit controlling everybody. But I think you need a plan when you're doing a record. Records are hard and bands are hard because you're involving people. And with records, it's often a long period of work, which is exhausting, it's monotonous. So how do you keep it fresh? And we did it a few different ways. The first album, we relied a little bit more on outside influences. The second album we did, The Circus, we pretty much, well, we wrote most of it on our own. We tucked ourselves away in a studio and we literally sat round the piano. A very hard way of making a record, that is.
Yes.
That's long hours. That's a lot of, you know, when you sat on a piano, you can change anything at any point. It's sometimes good to not be able to change stuff. That otherwise you can rewrite things a million times. You can never get anywhere. So from that, I then had the whole thing of Robbie coming back into the band. So I'm sat there thinking, okay.
He's a writer.
I'm a writer.
Yeah.
Mark's a writer.
Yeah.
Robbie's a writer. Now listen, on a 3-minute single, how much of each individual can you, I mean, how do you go down that way?
You sound like Radiohead.
And so I had a plan straight away. I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to become like one of these hip-hop producers. I'm going to make backing tracks. But not just, you know, a kick, snare, drum and a piano. I went to town on these backing tracks. I got drummers in, guitarists. So you press play and you go, this is a hit, what is it?
It's formed,
and it hasn't even got a melody or a lyric on it.
Wow.
So what I had was then, everyone would come in the studio. So I've got 4 guys sat there. I'd go play. And then we'd have 2 mics up recording everything everyone sang. And everyone would be coming out with melodies, lyrics.
Love that.
So all of a sudden, you've got 16 bits of a song. And you go, right, well, that bit's great. Let's put that there. And it becomes like a puzzle then.
I love that.
So all of a sudden, you're reinventing what you do. So I've done this for 20 years, and I'm now doing it a different way than I've ever done it before.
Did you find that some of the melodies that the guys were bringing to the table matched the ones you already had in your head, or did it surprise you that they were so...
I really made a point of not having any.
How can you not have a melody in your head when you're making an entire song? You must have something floating around.
No, because I really concentrated on the chords being like the best chord, like the chords to a hit record, right? Just think about that for a second. You play the chords to a hit record.
You know.
You know what it is. So I really made sure that they were working, that all the voicings were good, that they were in the key where people would be able to sing them, and every one sounded different from the next. And what you get is when you do that, when you hit play, you have 3 runs of a track where you come up with all these amazing ideas, and on the 3rd or 4th run, the ideas get less and less. So at that point, you go play, and another song comes up, and everyone's at it again.
Wow.
So within an hour, you've got 6
the basis
or 7.
of an album, yeah.
You've got the basics of a real good album.
Oh, man, I would love to have seen your face at the end of that sort of hour. You must just be sitting there going, thank God that worked.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, you're already going, the 3rd one's a single, 5th one's a single. I mean, it's amazing.
And this is how The Flood happened? You brought the track into to the guys and it happened?
Track, yeah.
Talk us through the chord structure for The Flood and how that came about.
Flood's a really complicated record.
I know. What a crazy hit single that one is. It's the closest thing to Prague I think you guys have done. I have no idea what you're singing about either. I don't think anybody does.
Really?
Something
is
very
that right?
Really lost on that one. And I've really listened to it over and over again. Because the first bit I get when you're going through, you know, but then when you dancing, is it Dancing on the Rain?
Yeah, Dancing with the Rain.
Dancing with the Rain?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just about being in a band, basically.
Right.
Yeah, it's
and the flood is a metaphor for...
Well, I mean, basically, when we got together, our lives were turned upside down.
Yeah.
And it's just like
there were more
the
of them
bows
than us.
breaking, and there's more of them than us, you know. Now they say we'll never dance again. Here we are.
It's quite biblical. I know you say that you haven't referred to things like that before, but that's quite a biblical feel to that song.
I think the lyrics are killer in that one.
Amazing, amazing. And obviously it connected completely with people irrespective of whether they got it or otherwise. It meant something to them. I think that's what's great about pop music. So back to the chords. So how did that sort of, it's a complex one. So just give us even one transition.
It's in a few different keys as well. And I've obviously got to remember what key we're in.
You do, you're on tour in a couple of months.
I don't even know it. We mapped the moon and star, then you forgave them. We will meet you where the lights are. Yeah, it's a few different sections as well. I tell you what it was.
That doesn't stop. That's always moving.
I remember what it was now with this one. Is that what I did on some of the early backing tracks I made is I made too many sections because I thought if we just had a load of sections, then I can do them in any order
You'll
possible.
find a melody, move it around, yeah.
Because there's that whole bit where it goes, there's progress now.
Oh, was that first one? Did you just play that before?
Yeah, it's a tricky...
That should not be in a pop song.
Yeah.
Wow, that shouldn't be in a pop song, should it?
That's Bohemian Rhapsody, a little bit of that. But don't tell anyone.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a few Freddie Mercury chords in there.
Freddie will understand.
But that's what it was. It was never intended to be four sections. You know, I try and get to a chorus using just two sections if possible. So it was never meant to be that long, but because I'd added all these sections in thinking I'll find 2 or 3, everyone had written this song but used all the sections. So again, the best things are usually mistakes.
Well, you know, I think for a single, first single off the new album with the return of Robbie, I mean, taking Shine into consideration, which was fun, but, you know, and it cleared a lot of air, but the flood is... And so having Robbie sing that, taking nothing away from the other fellas, but some of his songs have a complexity to them as well. He's written some pretty interesting layered pop songs throughout his career. It made sense to have him. He could follow it melodically, couldn't he? He has a similar ambition in terms of progressions and trying to be sort of almost progressive pop music.
Well, the other thing was, with all the songs we wrote for this new album, is that at the point we were writing them, someone would run in and sing their bit. And so, you know, the melody and what they were saying would choose the singers. And so I had that bit, there's progress now. I had that bit. So I was always ready to make my move when that bit came up. But Robbie had those verses which he sat and wrote. And so it was just choosing the singer itself, really, the songs were. There was a couple of the songs where we changed who was singing, but in general, as we were writing them, it was obvious whose song it was.
What an amazing journey to find yourself. Before we get into what you've learned and start to wrap this up, because you've been so generous with your time, but what an incredible experience to be in a room with all your friends, having been through everything, the ups and the downs, and to have come together and with Robbie finally the final piece of the puzzle, and to be able to watch this creative process unfold before your eyes, almost at this point, Gary, having done a lot of the groundwork, like an observer. I mean, you almost could have sat back and just watched your friends have fun, couldn't you, and just enjoy it.
It was great.
You must have loved it.
It just felt like...
I just had this vision of you just going, looking at everyone, just smiling.
I was.
And then looking at someone else coming up with something and just smiling and just watching it happen.
It was amazing to be in the room. It really was. And you know what? I think the greatest thing for us, which is why I wanted to film it, was we felt like a real band at last. You know, this time round, we're doing as much as any other band does in the studio. God, we're writing all the stuff.
Yeah.
We're near enough producing most of it with all the vocals we do, and it's coming from us, from nowhere else but from us. and it feels great. It feels great to be at the point, you know, we're 20 years in now, and to be still relevant at that point, to be able...
way more relevant. Way more relevant.
But it's crazy, after 20 years, that is, you know.
I mean, I couldn't possibly have imagined I'd be sitting here talking about songwriting craft with you, from remembering you from the 90s, because my interests were totally different to what you were doing. And yet I can find myself as someone who, you know, looks for exciting and new music of all different shapes and sizes, and I can honestly say, hand on heart, and have said on the air 2 years running that The Greatest Day is one of my favourite songs of all time.
Oh, thank you.
You know? And you know that it is for many, many people, because that song that's the magic. That's the magic of songwriting right there. It's the emotion, it's the familiarity, it's the authenticity and integrity of a real songwriter putting his heart on the table, and it speaks to people and it can appeal to them on whatever's going on in their life. Do you think that would be the song at the end of time when, and say, I asked this to Jay-Z the other day, and do you think it's 60, 70,